welcome back to my channel. I've absolutely loved watching everyone do their mid-year book tag, so I figured I'd do one myself. If you don't know what that is, I'm basically going to be answering a bunch of questions and assigning a winner based on the books I've read in the first half of the year. The only rule I've set for myself is that I'm not going to answer any question with the same book twice, and I'm not going to be including any of my rereads. First question you've got is favorite book you've read so far. This was an extremely easy decision for me. It had to be Hunt the Villain by Rena Kent. I was incapable of reading MM for 4 months after reading this book because that's how obsessed I was with it. This is actually the first book that I ever tabbed and annotated, and it was crazy because while I was reading, I was actually reading slower than I usually do because I wanted to absorb every single second of it. I absolutely love the opposites attract element of this book. You've got Vaughn, who is the stoic, composed one, and then you've got Julian, who is the chaotic sunshine, and I just really loved watching their relationship develop naturally over time. Get you a man that'll jump off a cliff just to prove to you how much he cares. You've got two opposing mafia branches, so they're essentially enemies, and I absolutely ate up all of the toxic, messy vibes from them. Vaughn is definitely Kirill's son with the way that he was so possessive and jealous. Anytime anyone even looked in Julian's direction, anytime anyone even smiled at Julian, Vaughn was angry, and it was absolutely delicious. This book was truly a masterpiece. I rated it 6 stars, and Vaughn and Julian have become my favorite Rena Kent MM couple, and they have overtaken Nico and Bran. But honestly, coming in at a close second for me, so I do want to explain, is Quiet Obsession by I.A. Dice. I was completely shocked by how much I loved this book. This book challenged the notion that I don't like other woman drama, other man drama, and like a messy romance, because that is exactly what this was, and I ate it up. It takes a really talented author to write a selectively mute FMC in a way that only adds to the story and doesn't take away. The fact that Millie barely spoke to Creed for honestly half of this book genuinely only added to the intrigue. All the side characters played a really prominent role in the story and felt very intentional, which I really liked as well. And honestly, I can't really get over the amount of times Creed called her baby. The spice in this book was honestly insane. The worst book I've read so far. Alright, this is the easiest decision of my life. This would be Love Song by Elle Kennedy. I actually don't own the physical copy, and I'm so glad I didn't buy it. Going into this book, honestly, I didn't actually have very high expectations. I know that Wyatt is Garrett Graham's son, and Garrett Graham is my fave Elle Kennedy man, but it had been a while since I've read an Elle Kennedy book, so I didn't actually go in expecting the world. What I did not expect, though, was to find my most hated book of the year. Wyatt was a nightmare MMC. He was a man-child. He was emotionally avoided. He had this complex about accepting help from other people, including his parents, and he was so adamant that he didn't want a relationship. On top of the fact that these characters were arguing the whole book, but Wyatt took it upon himself to be extremely controlling of Blake. She had just come out of a relationship where her ex had cheated on her, and she needed some time away to just recalibrate. And Wyatt was constantly bossing her around and parenting her. There was this one scene, and I actually can't get this out of my brain because this is the perfect way to explain to you how horrible this MMC is. But basically, she wanted to go for a drink to a bar, which he didn't want her to go to, but then decided on going with her so that he could look after her and watch out for her. So they went to this bar, right? She's up at the bar ordering a drink, talking to the bartender. Wyatt ends up grabbing her, pulling her outside and saying, "We're going home." She doesn't want to go home, so she's asking him why he's being crazy because she wants to stay and have a fun night out. And this man says to her, and this is an actual quote, she asks him, "What's your problem?" To which he responds, "My problem is that you're desperate for attention from any guy who will give you 5 seconds, and now that your boyfriend finally did what everyone saw coming, you're flirting with everyone to make yourself feel better." Mic drop. So yeah, hate that guy, hate that book. Definitely the easiest decision. Best audiobook you've listened to. This one is 100% Garen Park. This was the easiest decision of my life. This is the first MM book I've been able to read in 4 months, and oh my god, it was so much fun. It's set in a trailer park, and you've got 2 men who are rivals. They are constantly at each other's throats, beating each other up, competing in motocross races. They are essentially enemies. One night, after losing a race, Devon is basically beaten up to within an inch of his life by his father, and he shows up at Maddox's house looking for his brother, because their brothers are friends. Maddox opens the door and sees how hurt Devon is, and begrudgingly decides to help him out. It makes him uncomfortable seeing Devon so vulnerable, and it's so fun because this is actually basically how the book starts. So immediately you have the caretaker trope, which ends up morphing into the one bed trope. Yeah, this was a fun time and the audio narrators absolutely delivered. Their inability to communicate without throwing punches or insults at each other had me laughing out loud. And the way they were channeling all their anger at feeling vulnerable at each other was absolutely hilarious. It's giving toxic masculinity on both sides and having to fight the desire to use their fists instead of words. Honestly, I would definitely recommend this book. The book with the craziest ending, 100% no question, has to be Daggermouth. The way the ending of this book had me staring at a wall afterwards. To be honest with you, I am still processing how this book finished. The plot twists, the cliffhanger, absolutely insane. This is another 6-star read of mine and one of the best books I've read this year. I would 100% recommend. Dark dystopian perfection. There are so many things that I am looking forward to in the second book, and I need all of these answers. Oh my God. I don't think I've actually sought out so many people to message about the ending of this book in my life because I actually needed to talk about it repeatedly. If you've read it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Most anticipated release for the rest of the year. I've actually got 3 for this because I can't really pick between these 3. I'm so excited for all of them. ACOTAR 6. I'm telling you right now, if this next book is not about Azriel, I am going to riot. I am so ready to see that man get his freak on. At this point, I don't even care who the FMC is. Initially, I was thinking it could be cute to see him and Elaine's relationship develop a little bit, especially with that little teaser that she gave us of him giving her the necklace. That made me curious about them. But then also I was thinking about it and him and Gwen, that could be really cute as well. So I actually don't care. But I'm telling you right now, if that book is not an Azriel and it's about Lucian, I will actually be so angry. Lola King has a new Mafia book coming out in November and I'm actually on the edge of my seat waiting for it. I don't even care what this woman writes. I will read it. If she published a grocery list, I would read that. And then lastly, the last book in the Undone series by Peyton Corinne. I'm really excited for this. This story was teased so much in the last book and I just feel like it's gonna be so cute. This is actually a really underrated hockey romance series. I would encourage everyone to go read this. The mental health reps are written so beautifully and I'm so excited to see what she does with these 2 characters. New release you haven't read but want to. I'm honestly ashamed and embarrassed to admit that I have not read Onyx Storm yet. I read Fourth Wing the month it was published. And then in preparation for Iron Flame, I reread Fourth Wing. And then in preparation for Onyx Storm, I reread Fourth Wing and Iron Flame again. So it's safe to say I absolutely love this series. What I am really struggling with is having to have so much time away from it and then lock back into this incredible fantasy world. I just want the rest of the books and I just want to sit there and I want to binge them. I am a binge reader to my core and the way that this is being published is really, really difficult for me. At this point, it's been so long, so I'm just considering waiting for the next book so I can just read 2 at once and just have the best time. I have no idea how I've managed to avoid all the spoilers for this book, but I have been dodging them left, right, and center. At this point, it's just been so long now, so I'm like, ugh, I may as well just wait. But I am very, very excited to get to this book eventually when I do decide to read it. Best sequel you've read so far? Without a doubt, Broken Dove. Not to be dramatic, but this book quite literally changed my life. There is nothing I like more than an author that is able to shock me, do something that on paper I would not like, but actually write it in a way that has me sat and eating up those crumbs. Without getting into any spoilers, something that the author did with the romance in this book, traditionally I would be so against, and I think that actually a few people did not like that decision. But oh my God, I was so sad. I actually can't really believe it. It's insane. And the ending of this book was also insane. If I could have any book sooner, book 3 would be on my lap right now. I'm absolutely dying to know how this turns out. This series is actually a god tier for me now. Biggest disappointment of the year so far, I would have to say Fever Dream by Elsie Silver. Not to say that I didn't enjoy this book, because I did rate it 4 stars. I think I just had extremely high hopes for it. I really thought it was going to be a 5-star read, and maybe my expectations were just too high. But the idea of the reality dating show sounded so fun in theory, but then in execution, I don't know. It just was missing something for me, which was really disappointing because I love Elsie Silver. And when she hits hard. I have spoken to a few of my friends who have thought similarly about that book, so yeah, it is a bit of a shame. Obviously going to continue the series though. Biggest surprise of the year, without a doubt, Boys of Tommen. I was not expecting to read this series. I had made peace with the facts that I was never going to pick up this series. I was like, yep, they're in high school. That's not really my vibe. There was so much controversy on Book Talk at the time about the characters being underage. And I was just like, oh, I can't be bothered. It really doesn't sound like it's for me. Up until this year, I hadn't really read many trauma and emotional romances before. So no part of me thought I was going to read this series. I was convinced by about 4 of my friends to pick it up. And I thought, what the hell? Let's just see what it's all about. And then I proceeded to read the whole series in about a week. This is just one of those series where it doesn't matter if you don't think it's for you. The way that Chloe Walsh makes you connect to these characters and their trauma and their experiences, I was literally praying for their happy endings, and thank God most of them received them. I am still waiting for Lizzie and Huey's happy ending, and don't even talk to me about that releasing 10 book because oh my God. I basically had to push this series out of my mind in order to move on, but definitely the fact that I read and loved this series, the hugest surprise. Favorite new to me author. I actually have 2 for this because I've been reading a lot of books this year from different authors. First one is Abby Jimenez. I never thought that I would be sitting here today telling you that I like a closed door romance author. I'm all about the spice. Gimme, gimme, gimme. People will tell me about a YA story and then I'll think, nah, kind of past that point in my life. But oh my God, I didn't know that this was a closed door romance when I read it. And I'm so happy I didn't know that, because then I would be missing out on Abby Jimenez, and her books are so much fun. The rom-com queen has me tearing up, has me laughing out loud. The audiobooks in particular for some of her books are absolutely phenomenal. I have literally just been making my way through her entire catalog. I only have 2 more books that I haven't read, and I'm so happy that I picked this up. And I also have to say E. Salvador, honestly, her books are just so beautifully written. The way that she can make me connect to these characters who have such deep-seated trauma. I never thought I would actually enjoy crying about fictional characters. The way she writes slow burn romance is so captivating. She takes you on the biggest journey of healing, and I can't even explain how much she makes my heart ache in all the best ways. This book in particular is everything to me, and I am slowly making my way through more of her books. A book I can't stop thinking about. The Night We Met by Abby Jimenez. I initially finished this and rated it 4.5 stars because I could not stop thinking about this story, these characters, and Chris, the MMC. I had to bump it up to a 5 stars. I read this book in one sitting. The trope is boyfriend's best friend, so you best believe I was sat. The beautiful way in which she wrote this story and the non-toxic energy was absolutely incredible. Again, the fact that there is no smut did not bother me because the deep emotional connection between our 2 characters was just everything to me. Chris is actually the man of my dreams. I can only hope and pray that a man like that will come into my life. Super attentive, extremely masculine, takes care of all the problems, only wants the best for you. Like, the list just goes on and on. It's actually ridiculous. The most binge-worthy series 100% has to be the Monster Trilogy. Look, I ceased to exist as a functioning human being while reading this book. I basically didn't sleep. I had to know how it ended. There is some literal crack in this series. And because the books aren't so long, I was flying through them. The amount of times I crashed out during this series and had to message my friends with voice notes squealing, oh my God. I love a military romance, and the characters were so unique as well. This is a Mulan retelling, so you've got Sasha, who's hiding as a man in the army, and the MMC is the one in charge. The forbidden nature was absolutely delicious. I also love the pet name. This is my favorite pet name under baby. I don't know how to pronounce it because it's Russian. But the translation is my son, and it's just so cute. I want to be someone's son. I actually don't think it's possible to read book one and then decide to read something else. The cliffhangers and the plot twists were absolutely insane. This is Rena Kent's best work, to be honest. This, Hunt the Villain, God of Ruin are my 3 favorite Rena Kent books. A book I was expecting to enjoy more. Sinners Condemned and Sinners Consumed. Look, this is probably a me problem, I know. I just don't love a duet. I often think that authors can just condense the works into one story, make it a bit thicker, that's fine, but to separate it into 2 is so unnecessary. I fear it's probably a me problem, but I haven't read a duet where I've come out of it thinking, ugh, that was meant to be a duet. And I think because this series is just so hyped, I was expecting a lot. I will say though, there are certain scenes that I will never forget. That scene in the car where she gives him a lap dance and puts a credit card in him. Oh my God, that was absolutely insane. The hottest scene ever. And that is cemented into my brain. To be fair though, I did rate it 4.25, both of them 4.25. So I still did really enjoy it. I also just really didn't like the nickname Queenie. It kind of gave me the ick every time he said that to her. I understand why that was the choice because it fit with the story, but just like Queenie, I don't know, it just didn't even feel like it fit. He's so hot and it gave me the ick every time he said it. I don't know. When he said baby, I was like, okay, yes, no, vibing. So yeah, I definitely expect to like this duet more than I did. So it has to be the one for this question. The best execution of the enemies to lovers trope. It's not possible to choose a book that is not a Suzanne Valenti and Caroline Peckham book. These Twisted Sisters are the queens of the enemies to lovers trope. They have characters who absolutely hate each other's guts, and the transition of that to lovers is the wildest journeys that I have ever gone on in my life. Cindervale, which is book 3 in the Sins of the Zodiac series. This book specifically, and I guess the series as a whole, I actually can't. The MMC is the one responsible for murdering the FMC's mother. And she vows on the stars that she is going to be the cause of his death. She carves his name into her dagger with the intent on ending his life. That is how enemies we are talking about. And all of book 1 and book 2 is absolute hate. Book 3 is where we start to see a slight transition into the lovers category, and I was absolutely sat for every second of it. They always have me thinking, how the hell are they gonna make these people lovers? I just don't get it, but they show you and it's so impressive. So 100% Sins of the Zodiac has to win that one. Favorite underrated indie read has to be Beyond the Lines. This is kind of like giving High School Musical in the sense that Troy had to decide between singing and basketball, but instead it's being an artist and ice hockey. I absolutely love this book. I was not expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. Having the FMC and the MMC have art class together and have to work on a project was so fun. They have a misunderstanding at the start of the book and then end up hating each other because of it. And then it's also the brother's best friend trope. So this book just had a literal menu of fun tropes and ideas, and the way that it was executed was amazing. It didn't feel extremely similar to anything I've read before. I also feel like both these characters had a lot of trauma, and I really enjoyed watching them kind of miscommunicate because of their own personal experiences, but then also realize what the other one was going through as well. So much fun. Favorite couple. Okay, I was sitting here long and hard about this one because a few of my favorite couples could have been books that I have already explained, but I decided that it is definitely Roxy and Damien from Shadows of Fury. He's been obsessed with her for years and takes it upon himself to watch out for her, and by that I mean stalking. I always connect really deeply with FMCs who have a tough outer shell, and Roxy was really scared to let her walls down and start caring about someone in the event that they leave her. She was just really scared to be hurt, and I really relate to that. And then Damien, he was just this steady, patient, loving man who basically just proved to her day by day why she could trust him. And I just loved watching their relationship and their chemistry build naturally over time. She was also the kind of FMC that stood up for him even before they were romantically involved in social situations, and I love that. They just had a lot of mutual respect for each other. Future Charlotte here. I had to come back and say not only was this book touch her and die energy, but it was touch him and die energy. Roxy was extremely possessive and protective of him, which I just feel like I don't see often with FMCs. They really had each other's backs and I absolutely loved it. So anyways, there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed listening to my media book tag. Subscribe if you want to come back and see me chat again soon. Thanks so much. Bye.